So I am Jamie Lard. I am deaf and blind, and sign language is how I communicate, through tactile sign language, actually. I have Christine with me. She's my interpreter. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about my life growing up, what it was like being deaf-blind, and share with you about my family, going to school, and things I do now. And I actually had a great time experiencing Helen Keller's home. I've been down to Alabama, so I'm looking forward to your questions at the end. All right. Mm-hmm. So thank you. All right, we can go to the next slide, please. So Christine Dwyer here, she is a wonderful interpreter. She really said that. She's going to talk to you about interpreting. Thank you, Christine. I know sometimes as an interpreter it can be embarrassing when you're interpreting for the person talking about you, right? Sounds kind of funny. So, hi, I'm Christine Dwyer, and yes, I'm your sign language interpreter today. Hi. So, how many of you have used interpreters before? Any of you? Staff, any of the students? Yeah, had experience? It doesn't have to be sign language, right? I mean, interpreting is not just about sign language. Right? Yeah? Okay, good. Your heads are nodding. Good, okay. So my job, though, my two languages are sign language and English, spoken English. But my job as an interpreter with someone who's deafblind is a little bit different than an interpreter for someone who's just deaf. Because if you're just deaf, you can see what's going on and you get a lot of information, right? You know that what you understand right away, about 70% of it is because you looked at it and you know it right away. I can look around this room. I know how to get out of here in an emergency in many ways. Jamie doesn't. So she would rely on someone like me to give her that information. So I have to, pay attention to what's going on, what I hear and what I see, and make sure that the person I'm working with has all the same information that everybody else does. So Jamie and I have been working together for quite some time. Over 30 years we've known each other. So you might notice we kind of sign really kind of quick sometimes together, but that's because we know each other so well. I'm going to turn it back to Jamie, and I'm going to let her finish telling you about herself, because she's more fascinating than me. All right? I'm kidding. Great, yes. So Jamie wants to tell you, remember I was telling you how if an emergency, I know how to get out of here? I'm going to show you how Jamie knows how to get out of here really quick. I'm going to draw a big X on her back, and she's going to reach right down, grab her cane. She's going to grab my elbow for sighted guide, and she's going to follow me wherever I go, because she knows I'm going to take her someplace safe. And when I do that X on her back, it not only means I'm going to a safe place, but when I get there, I'm going to tell you what happened, right? Because that's really important. If she didn't see what was going on, you need to have that same information. Well, see, her cane's giving her information too, right? So she doesn't fall off. That's not something I can necessarily do for her. So the cane and a sighted guide can both be really important. So if Jamie's not going sighted guide, then she can use her cane that way and travel. There's classes called Orientation and Mobility. For short, we call it O&M. And that's where you learn how to use one of those canes and how to travel. Like if you had a student here at your school who was blind, they would have someone come in to teach them orientation and mobility and teach them how to get around the school. Because you need to know where the cafeteria is, you need to know where the bathrooms are, and of course you need to know where your classes are, right? Yeah. All right, great. We'll go on to the next slide. Baby Jamie, mom and dad. So when I was born, my family actually was living in New York, in Long Island. But it wasn't until I was about 6 months old, that's probably about how old I am in these pictures, that my parents noticed my eyes were blinking a lot, and I really didn't respond to any kind of sound. So they brought me back for some testing at the hospital. And that's when the doctors told my parents that I was deaf and blind. And I was born this way. because my mother was sick during her pregnancy. She had rubella or German measles. So when I was born, there was no vaccine for that. So for several years in the early 60s, there were many children being born with disabilities. But with that vaccine that we all get now, the MMR, we do not have a lot of people being born like this, so that's a great thing. But my family was still very happy to have me as their daughter and wanted me to have the best that I could have growing up. Next slide, please. So I say I'm blind, but what that means is that I can't see very well, really. I don't see any color, and things are really blurry. Christine's gonna help you with this picture and talk to you a little bit about vision in eyes. So for me, it's an opportunity for you to have an experience of what it's like to be blind. And Christine will help you out with that. Okay, great. So we're looking for some guesses. So yeah, so this is Christine speaking again. So yeah, this is a picture, something I'm quite sure you've all seen somewhere before. And it is pretty fuzzy. Have any of you seen this picture before? Sometimes people have, no. And we have some guesses. What do you have for a guess? A cow. Mm-hmm. What do you see? Do you see a cow? Yeah, you, in the front. You see a dog. Someone sees a cow. In the orange, what do you see?
I see a kid in a jacket.
You see a kid in a jacket. Wow. Anything else? Yeah? No? Sometimes people see a turtle, or they see it like it's like looking down at the earth. What do you think? The lake reflection. Oh, I like that. You know what? The first person was right. It's a cow. You're like saying, but I see a cow, but I see a cow. You're right, it's a cow. Anybody see it now? No? Yeah, help them out. Here, I'll help you. I'm going to borrow Jamie's cane here and give you some help. You ready? Here's her nose. Go up the bridge of her nose. Here's an eye. Here's her other eye. Do you see it now? Right? Here's a big ear. Body's all over here. Okay. So I think what's really important to understand is that if a person is blind or visually impaired, it doesn't mean they only see things black, right? Blind means that you have vision that's not really clear enough to maybe drive or read regular size print. And for Jamie, things look pretty blurry and there's no color, and she has to see things up very, very close. But you still consider yourself blind. So vision is a range. You might have heard of people having glaucoma or cataracts. Maybe you have a grandparent with macular degeneration. They're all different eye conditions, but the person might still say, I'm blind. All right, does that make sense? All right, we're gonna move on now to deafness, okay? Ready for the next picture? Yes, there we go, great. So Jamie's speaking now and saying, in this picture I'm about 2, and that's when my parents hired my first teacher. She came to my house, and I started learning. I learned sign language. My first word was cookie. But I'm going to teach you guys some sign language right now. So Christine's going to spell those words for me that are on the screen, and I'm going to have you copy me. All right, and we're going to practice this together. All right, we've got Hello, hello. So put your hand up to your head. If you're right-handed, your right hand. If you're left-handed, your left hand, okay? Hello. Perfect. You did that well. Okay, next word is N-I-C-E. Nice. Nice, yeah. Looks good. M-E-E-T. Meet. So both your fingers up and they come together. Meet. Y-O-U. U, we point. T-H-A-N-K. Thanks or thank you. Jamie, I have to tell you, I saw one girl over there. She knew the sign before you showed that. Yay, good for you. All right, so now we're going to string those all together. You ready? Hello. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Yay. Good job. All right, next slide, please. Moving to Framingham. So when I was to start school at Perkins, my family left New York and moved here to Massachusetts, and I bought that house in Framingham. Because it wasn't too bad of a drive back then to Watertown to Framingham. I lived at school, so it was an opportunity that I could go home on weekends and school vacations. Because I was living Monday through Friday in our dormitories, we called cottages. But it was great to be home for holidays like Christmas and celebrating those things with my family and going on summer vacations. So the other person in that picture is my younger brother, Corey. And we can go to the next. Thanks. Classroom and cottage. So the top picture is one of the dormitories I lived in, and that's where I learned a lot of things that you learned at home. I learned to make my bed, do my laundry, brush my hair, my teeth, all kinds of, we call ADL. ADL, yes, she said ADL. So it's things that we all have to learn to live every day. And in the classrooms, they were very small. We had all the same subjects, math, science, social studies, all of those same things, but we also had to learn in a very small one-on-one. So if you see in that bottom picture that there are 2 teachers and 3 students, and that's the size, a typical size of a classroom at Perkins. Because you can imagine, we have to do touch sign language, so it's kind of hard to talk to more than 1 student at a time, right? Just like Helen Keller, right? She had one-on-one. Yeah. Okay, and we'll move on. Great. Work different job pictures. So I had different jobs, like many students do through high school. So I don't know, maybe do any of you have questions about things I might have done at any of these places? Yes, in the purple. What did you do at Papagino's? And Jamie's saying, well, that was one of my first training jobs I did, and I worked getting food ready for the salad bar. So I was chopping vegetables and putting dressing together. But another thing I had to learn at work was how to talk with people. So I always had to bring a pen and a pad of paper so I could write notes and talk with my coworkers. Yes? In the red. Which one was that? I'm sorry. The hospital? What did you do at the hospital? Your hospital job? Well, that's where I worked before I had this job. I worked at the hospital in the transport department, and I would bring mail around the hospital, different samples to the lab, blood samples, and all of that good stuff for 13 years, is that right? Yeah, 13 years at the hospital. Yes? What is Horizons? It's a summer camp. And I worked there in the kitchen again, doing more kitchen work. I was a KitchenAid. So getting lots of things ready for the campers to eat. Yes, in the front. Oh, no, no, the red square and the blue square is not dominoes. It's just the pretty colors they like us to put on our slideshow from Perkins, so it's nothing. Yes? What did you do at the cemetery? She worked at a cemetery. That was the most fun job, actually. Everyone there was kind of like working in a family. I worked in a greenhouse, actually. So we made, at Christmas time, we were making wreaths, and in the springtime, planting seeds for flowers. So it was really a lot of fun in the greenhouse where they sell plants. Yeah. In the peak. In Perkins, what did you do before? We have a factory on campus where we assemble the brailer machines that get sent all around the world. And I worked in a factory doing a drill press. Fun doing the drill press? Boring. It was really boring. So, but it was really good to have that experience, you know. It's good to know what that is like. Because experiences are really how you learn things. Yes. All right, let's go to the next one. CLS group. So the school is in Watertown, and I also live in Watertown, down the street in my own apartment. I had a roommate for many years, and we're still great friends. And all these other folks in this picture, we all live in the same building. And last night we had a little holiday get-together. It was a lot of fun. But you might be wondering what it is like when I'm at home on my own and what kind of supports I might need or what I do by myself. So we're going to go into the next one, and it's going to be a little video clip. All right?
Hey there, I'm Jamie Lawrence. This is my apartment. I'm hungry for breakfast. Hello and good morning. It's fall today. I'm going to make some coffee and cereal. Many people who are blind use their finger to help know when the water has filled the pot. Touch is very important to get information that I cannot see. My hands are not only tools.
May I have your attention, please? Excuse the interruption. There is no internet, phone service due to the fact that Comcast is down. No internet and no phone service due to the fact that Comcast is down. Thanks.
Through touch, looking closely and taking my time to pour the milk and get my cereal ready. My doorbell doesn't ring, it flashes. I have different signals from my phone, doorbell, and fire alarm to help me live on my own. Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you. Are the cards there? Happy, happy, happy birthday to you. From Mom and Jeff. This one. Do you want car insurance? No, no, no. Junk mail. Car insurance? No, no, no. I don't need that. Get rid of it. Do you have some checks to write? Yes. Sometimes I need to use my special reading glasses. You can see that one lens is very thick. I only use one eye to read with these. They are helpful for writing checks and reading large print books.
right, next slide. Perfect. Accessibility, shopping, and computer. So you can see in the picture on the left, I'm using my computer. I have a special software program that allows me to read that large print. So I can use email and instant messaging to talk with friends and family and people whether they know sign language or not. That software program is called Zoom Text. And I also have an iPad. So Apple products have great ways to adjust the screens for people who are blind and visually impaired. So that's one way I have assistance with technology for accessibility. But another part of accessibility for me is just being into the community. Maybe I need to go shopping, like in that picture, I'm at a fair looking at some jewelry. But how do I go grocery shopping? What do I do when I need to get milk and things like that? There's things that I can't see, like maybe the expiration date on milk or something. So let's go to the next slide. We have another short movie clip for you.
I enjoy going to Wilson Farms. When I shop, I use the cart as a guide. Really, my support person is pulling it around. I usually have a list to follow, but I also enjoy looking at other things. I need help with that since I cannot see what might be on sale. I like shopping with someone who knows me well, so they know the kind of things I would be interested in checking out. Let's see what we can find.
I imagine that was one thing probably Helen liked about Annie. They knew each other pretty well, huh?
Oranges. The navel oranges are here. Yes. Do they have seeds? Yes, they have seeds. But I noticed more oranges over there. Yes. Perfect. What's next? I'm going to look for salad. Salads for lunch? Yes. Okay. I like to take time to check dates and read labels. Since I just cannot glance at it, I need to make sure I ask. This is a cantaloupe. Yes. There is also honeydew, the green one. This one is orange. I'd like both. What are the dates? They are both dated March 2nd. Perfect. I love Wilson Farm. Here they have wonderfully healthy food. I really enjoy it. Wow, I never touched that kind of mushroom in the store before. My hands are not only tools to do things, they are my eyes and ears. The way people touch my hands is important. Never grab or pull. Using a light touch and gentle guide is much more polite. $35.65. Here's $30. Total is $35.65. another successful shopping trip.
So my job that I have now for almost 20 years has been visiting lots of different schools and doing presentations. I go to kindergarten classes and high schools as well as other adult groups and talk about what it's like to be deafblind. Next slide. Oh, and like I told you, oh, it was such an exciting experience. I went with my friend Pam, and we flew down to Alabama, to Scumbia. And when I was in Helen's house, they let me touch some of the furniture and the dishes. They still have the broken dishes and the little guest house they were in, and that's the real pump. That's the same pump in that picture that Helen used with her word, water. So in Tuscumbia, Alabama, they celebrate her birthday every year, June 27th, and they have a big celebration with a parade, and they put on a production of The Miracle Worker, and they asked me to come down and be the Grand Marshal one year, so. So this is really the end of my presentation. The next slide is a boring one, so we can leave this one up. And let's have some questions. Maybe you want to ask me things, compare Helen Keller to deafblind people that we have today, or any other kind of questions. Yes, in the front with the glasses. He's curious if we both struggled to learn sign language, or was it easy to learn sign language? Jamie's saying, well, I think for both of us, we started when we were very young learning sign language, so we've been very, very used to it. So Jamie started at 2, and I started sign language at about age 10, because I met my neighbor, who also was born from rubella syndrome. So she's been my best friend. Yes, in the pink. Is it hard to do sign language? No, it's a language. Just like, is it hard for you to speak English? It's the same thing. So the earlier you learn a language, the easier it is to understand it. People who are later in life try to learn language because can sometimes struggle. Yes, here in the front, Adidas. When you dream, what happens in your dreams? I dream for sure, just like everybody does, but I don't see color in my dreams. More of my dreams, I sense emotion. I can feel what's going on. Yes, in the back, glasses.
Do you ever visit Perkins from time to time?
Do you still visit Perkins? I do. That's where my office is. I work there on campus, so I'm there all the time. Yeah. Yes. Next one over in glasses, the gray sleeves. How did you and I meet? Jamie says, I remember, this is such a fun story. It was 1984. And Christine came into my classroom and started working with me and my other teacher, Barbara. So it was really great when Christine got there, because everyone was very fluent in using sign language. And Christine stayed on in my life and some other things I needed to learn about learning to live independently in my apartment. So we've known each other a little while. In the back in the blue. How does she know who is at her house? And Jamie's saying, I just want to do a little review because we need to ask Jamie because I'm the interpreter for you to speak to her, so you don't have to ask me to ask her, do you know what I'm saying? So you can use first person language. So let's try it again. How do you? I'm sorry, you trailed off at the end. How do you know who shows up at your house? Ah, thank you. Well, for me, and for safety, I ask my friends to send me a message. I get a text, so I know that they're downstairs at my building. Then I'll know that they're on their way upstairs to my door. Or I go downstairs, and I'll meet them and let them in. Let's see, way in the back, long hair, glasses. How do you use your phone? Well, I don't really use a phone anymore. I use my iPad. I do some FaceTime with some friends and text. Yeah, right here in the front. She's curious, like before they studied that Helen right away understood words. What about you? Did you need to take time to learn and figure out the language? I did. So experience is such a great teacher, like Helen and Water. For me, I could smell my mother making those chocolate chip cookies in the house. So having that repetition of words, which is really the same way you guys all learned, right? When you were babies, you don't really remember it, but your parents said the same thing over and over until you really got that. That's what the word was. Yes?
What was your first word?
Your first word? That was cookie. Chocolate chip cookie, like this. You can try it.
I'm going to do about 2 more questions.
Okay, we have 2 more questions. Let's see. If you've asked a question, put your hand down. If not, I want to pick on you. I'm going to pick on you. Over there, yeah, young boy with your hand up, orange strings. Do your friends know sign language? Absolutely, yep. Like Christine is one of my friends. I have other friends who are deaf and blind, and yes, we all know sign language. And in the back, curly hair.
Growing up, did you have your mother helping you out with everything?
When you were growing up, did your mom help? Yeah, she did. She did, same as the people who helped me at school. So we worked together as a team. That was great. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.